Hello everybody and welcome to Inner Views with myself, your host Dave Simpson.
Hello, Mr. Simpson.
Hello.
Can you tell us about your background and your experience in the film industry and what you're hoping to accomplish?
Well, it's a bit of a long story, so I'll make it short. The first films that I did were in, the first one was to film the landing on the moon in 1968. I used 8mm and placed it in front of the television and captured that. You can see that on YouTube. And the second one was the 1968 Olympics in Mexico. And after that, I did a lot of traveling, and I unfortunately didn't carry any gear with me and didn't do any filming. Got back into it in the 80s as a filming tool for my travel business. And I was producing the occasional film in Mongolia or Canada, which was helping to advertise my business.
How about in Africa?
Yeah, that's right. One of the last ones for the tour was in Zimbabwe, a month in Zimbabwe. Yep, and then after that, Mongolia and Canada.
So when did you get back into film and video production after this break,
Yeah, well, really got going in 1999 when the economy in Japan. I'm living in Japan, and the economy was terrible, and I had to decide on new long-term plans, and I had three plans, and one of them was to create more films, short or long. And fortunately I met a gentleman named Eric Busk, who still films with me, and we did a number of short documentaries or long, between 2000 and 2014 or so.
And can you give us some examples, or what you did since then, and what you're working on right now?
Yeah, well, Eric and I filmed mostly documents had to do with fresh water. Canada's very lucky that we have 33% of the world's accessible fresh water. So I thought that was, being a Canadian, that was an important subject to bring to Japanese, and also talk about Japanese problems that they have here, like dirty water or plastics in the water, garbage in the water, which people are just starting to take seriously worldwide now. So we're about 15 years ahead of our time. But as of 2010, I decided to do more script writing, and I wrote my first script. It was a short one, 46-minute feature, which we produced in Japan and the Yukon, Canada. And then coming back in from 2011, I got into more script writing and wrote a long Cleopatra script, which the script is finished, but we're still looking for funding for that. So if anybody out there has $2 million, please contact me. And then last year, I really got down to business, and I wrote 8 scripts: comedy, sci-fi, war, and 2 of them are for Australia and 2 of those for Canada. And now that I'm just preparing to market those, and it looks pretty good.
Did you film any example of images about Cleopatra that to show what you're hoping to accomplish?
Yeah. We last year I traveled. I did a lot of traveling. In fact, I broke my record for going to the airport. I was at the airport 10 times in 2 weeks. It was a bit much, but we did a teaser for Cleopatra, and part of it was shot in Birmingham, England. There's some excellent people behind in the studio to help with that. And then I got a surprise call to visit the Pinewood Studios, and met some wonderful people there, and hopefully we'll be able to work with them in the near future. And then over to Cyprus, where I shot about 5 scenes for the teaser, and then Morocco, where we checked out the Atlas Studios, which is very interesting and the perfect place to do this kind of feature film that requires lots of desert and this type of buildings that Cleopatra used. Are all to be found in the Atlas Studios in Morocco, which is a wonderful place. And then finally Egypt, where I finished off by doing a diving trip in the Bay of Alexandria, where the remains of Cleopatra's palace can still be found just 10 or 15 meters under the water. It was amazing.
So yeah, so you did get some interesting images, and now you're trying to market that to use those images to sell your script.
Yeah, it's a big year because for the last year of working on 8 different scripts, there's been a lot of work, and it's completed as can be. And now, you know, we've luckily found some good people in Canada and Australia to work with, producers or directors that are interested for the script. And so I really look forward to getting something going later this year.
What's the difference between making a historical film like Cleopatra and a more modern story, you know, that takes place in nowadays in contemporary times?
Well, number one is the budget. I mean, when you make a documentary, well, like Eric and I did, we only needed about 3 months preparation and $300 and 3 days to do it. Whereas a Cleopatra film, you know, minimum budget maybe $2 million US. And that's hard to find, especially for novice directors or scriptwriters. And also it's a period setting, so all the costumes and everything that's used has to be gotten from somewhere or made, or you know, you rent it from the Pinewood Studios or the Atlas Studios. So it's expensive and expensive, time-consuming, but I still want to do it because I think it's a good story, and the world needs a second story about Cleopatra. There's only one out there right now. And
if you compare that to a story set in modern times,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, well, that's why I got into shorter films last year. The scripts that I wrote are all under 46 minutes, anywhere from 10 minutes actually, or 20 minutes, 1 or 2 of them, and maybe 4 of them are 46 minutes to 55 minutes long, and they're meant for like Netflix or television. And they are, I mean, they're in the area of possibility because the budget is, well, the budget is still enough to buy a new house, but you don't need $2 million. Maybe 200,000, 300,000 is sufficient. And some of them, possibly 2 of them, could be made into series, which is something interesting that I'm looking forward to.
Where do you want to make those films?
Yeah, well, the sci-fi and the comedy one about old people going back, sort of reliving their past, will be made in the outback of Australia, the comedy one, and the sci-fi will be started in the outback and then moves to Gold Coast in Queensland, and then it moves to New Zealand, and finally it moves to Vancouver Island. The other ones for Canada, one is called Babylon. That's going to be produced across Canada, bringing in actors from England and Canada, and the crew is all Canadian. And the other one is a war film. I won't give too much away, but it's an echo / family / war film that deals with the lack of water in California and war between Canada and the United States over water problems. And if anybody knows anything about Syria, that's exactly what happened there. If you go back far enough, it was all about the lack of water.
What's the project you most want to complete as soon as possible?
Well, as soon as possible. You know, for filmmakers, we spend a lot of time, or script writers, a lot of time putting the script together. So the ones that are easier, like the comedy ones, are the easiest ones to do. They're contemporary. You don't have to use period clothing. So those ones, the 2 comedy ones in Australia and 1 for Canada, I'd like to see those done first. Yeah.
Where would you like to show them?
Worldwide, but the comedies in particular are rather English in nature, so English comedy. So New Zealand, Australia, Canada, United States, England, Ireland for sure, and then other places. But the sci-fi one for Australia, I'd like to think is a little more worldwide, and the Cleopatra one definitely worldwide. That's something that everybody knows about.
Okay, well, that sounds good. I'm looking forward to seeing some of those films on my next flight to Canada.
Thank you very much, Eric, and I appreciate this time to reach out to everybody, and I'll see you for the next interview. Thank you for watching.